asking Steve to say why it was that he decided to do An Enemy of the People.
I don't know. I really don't. I think it started only because, you see, I started in New York as a stage actor, and I was on Broadway, replaced Ben Kazar in Hatful of Rain, and was on tour with a national company as an actor. And I looked around town at all the scripts that were being submitted to me, and I didn't think they were very good. I never really had confidence in myself as an actor to ever do anything classical. It was spooky, scary. And I started negotiations, actually with Becca, to do Waiting for Godot. That was my first choice. And he turned me down and said that he was very flattered that someone wanted to do it as a film, would love me to do it, but he didn't want to let it go. I read several classics. I'm not a learned person. I don't read. I've never read Stanislavski or Boleslavsky. I don't know very much about art or music, except things that I like. And I've never read classics in my life. So I sat down and I read Ibsen. I thought it was wonderful. I thought what he said was wonderful. Whether I, as an artist, could deliver it, I wasn't sure. I felt that if you can take someone off of the streets, and I'm 47 years old, but basically, I come from the gutter. So therefore, if someone without the proper training can give an interpretation of something that's classical, that if this country enjoys it, I really don't know that people will like it. I mean, you obviously liked it. Whether people in Butte, Montana will or will not, I don't know. And I don't care. I made this film for myself. I'm sorry, but it's true. And I love it. I love that film. I love everything that everybody contributed. I had a great deal of opposition doing the film, and they didn't want me to do it, and I can understand why. I'm not sure the film will make any money. I don't know that people will really care about that. I think that audiences per se, at least I used to, that if a man works very, very hard and he comes home, he wants to watch Archie Bunker. I know I do. If I work hard, I want to escapism. So I think that in a sense, I made it because I wanted to try it. First of what it said, too. Excuse me.
The first time we talked about it, you said, whatever else is true about it, it's pure, which I thought was just a really nice word to use about it.
Yes, we used Arthur Miller's adaptation that was done on Broadway in 1947, and Frederick March played the part that I'm playing now. And I read the play. I thought it was very, very good, and it didn't last very long, and I think it lasted 3 weeks, and it folded. And you see, it's a strange kind of political piece. I'm not a politician. You know, and I was on Nixon's 10 list, and I know nothing about, I mean, I vote. But so, you know, I read it, and I thought, well, the connotations that I see are not political other than what's obviously there. But strangely enough, on Broadway, it flopped, and there was a lot of political pressure on it. But we did keep the original screenplay very honest to what it was by Miller's adaptation.
One thing about the casting, I thought the girl who played Petra was particularly interesting.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
She's a New York stage actor?
Yes. Everybody. You know, they were all New York people, all very, very learned people about their craft. And I tell you, I studied that script because I don't have a very good mind for memorizing, and I'll tell you, you don't ever want to get out of step with those actors because you're dead, you know. I would like to take the film and see if I can get some education, you know, because I was standing outside and I get nervous and I walk away, you know, because you guys are hard audiences, and this is, for me, is an experience. So I would like to take it and see what happens with it, and keep it away from the public temporarily. I think I'm scared to show it to them. You're a captivated audience. You can't leave.
Do you see this maybe on television at some point after the theaters? It seems to lend itself very nicely.
I think absolutely it'll be on television, and if the film is not a success and it fails, it'll be on television quicker than.
That's great. Okay, well let's get some questions from the floor. So, who wants to begin over here?
Well, since this film was made because you wanted to make it for yourself.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay, you made this film, and you made it so that, because you wanted to make it, right? But what kind of response are you looking for from the people?
I don't know what I want from an audience. I would like, perhaps, for them to see what I see as a filmmaker. That's what I would like. Maybe that's the answer. I would like somebody, you know, to perk up and see some of the things that Ibsen wrote. I don't know who our audience is. That's the thing. We've snuck at 3 separate places. And I've been asked to stay away because I caused such a commotion with the projection and all, but we really don't know who our audience is. Strangely enough, we ran it in Indianapolis with the James Bond film. Right next to it, and you know, that's suicide. It really is. I'll give you an example. I did a film, it was one of my favorite films, didn't make 20 cents, and it was called Junior Bonner. Sam Peckinpah and I made it. I played a rodeo rider, a has-been, you know. And we finished the film, and it was pure, very much the same sense as this film is. It had the rolling tempo of the way things are in cowboy land. And when we finished the film, they were going to open the film up at the Grumman's Chinese. And I went to Joe Sugar, who was then the guy who was distributing film for Cinerama. And I went in his office, and I said, look, I think you're making a big mistake by putting this film in this big theater. I said, because people are going to look up and see Steve McQueen and Junior Bonner with Sam Peckinpah, and they think that they're going to go see The Magnificent Seven, and it isn't. It's an art film, and it was an art film. And he told me to mind my own business, and okay, so that was it. And the film failed. And what I was frightened of with this film, that if you saw it up on the marquee and saw Steve McQueen, Enemy of the People, I was afraid they were going to see Al Capone with a machine gun, you see, because people in the United States a lot of people do not know who Ibsen is. And there's one of the problems.
As has already been pointed out, this is a radical departure from your previous portrayals as a superficial, kind of physical roles that you've had in the past. Can we see
that one, right?
Is this going to be bear with me. Is this going to be a permanent transition? Can we look more for some more cerebral, more in-depth roles from Steve McQueen in the future? Are you going to go back? Are you going to go back to paying for a few more cars? Because I really liked, I never respected you before as an actor until what I saw today on that screen. No, I'm being serious now. That's the first time I really thought that you were doing something other than shooting or killing.
Okay. And I respect what you're saying.
I hope you keep it up. I hope you keep it up.
I didn't hear the last
I
word.
hope you keep it up.
Well, I'm not sure that I really would like to attempt another classic. It's too hard. And you see, let me say this, I'm very much into life right now. I might not be around much longer as an actor. I want to get into producing, but there's a lot out there. I'm living now. And the moment I became a movie star, being an actor is a gas. Being a movie star is a pain in the ass. And when that happens, you stop your personal growth. And that's the thing that I suffered from, you know. And I took a truck and went up to Montana. I've been all over the United States, you know. And I had my hair very long beard and so forth and so on. And it was wonderful being able to watch scenes that are going on. My conception can only be motorcycles and speed and things like that. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't do it no more. But I have to find a place for me to go for my own personal salvation. Doing a classic was just my payback, okay? And that's it. Now I'm clean. And I've done that. But as far as me moving on myself, I think I'm more into life than cinema. You know,
Terrific. Okay.
Truthfully.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yes, down in front.
I'd like to start out by saying that I felt the treatment of the stage play, of Ibsen's play, done on film was excellent. I've seen a lot of theater done on film, and it just doesn't come off well. The timing seemed to be good, and the lighting and the music really worked well to make the stage story a film story.
Thank you.
But what I'd really like to know is, how was the conflict between you as executive producer and actor? How did you work out those roles, and what were the conflicts and what were the compromises that you had to make?
Okay. Did you go for my jacket?
It's a good idea.
I'm used to it because I've had the training for it. I've been producing films for years, but I've never wanted to take screen credit because I didn't really need it. I thought it'd be better to buy another head who was smarter than I was. I don't have that problem. It gets tiring, and I have to take care of myself physically. But I was in charge. If there was any mistakes, I pay for them. So I had no opposition, and I'm not a compromiser. I was getting great support from my co-workers. The only people that gave me difficulty were the buck people, and you can't blame them. They want to see me crash and bang and shoot and kill. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I can't knock that because the car I'm driving out here was paid for because of that. But this film was an unknown commodity. It's just extra work. If you can go do your job as an actor, like I did the Towering Inferno, and I gave my conception to the producer and the director going in, and Paul did the same thing and the other actors on the film. Now, it was so wonderful to finish a day's work and go home. But if you're involved in it production-wise, you do have a responsibility towards the production. It doesn't wait for you, and it costs about $5,000 an hour, $10,000 an hour to run that camera. So that part gets physically exhausting.
Girl over here. Yes.
Yes. With regards to this film and Easy Rider, that was first a success in Europe. Do you think that might happen with this film? Because it's being an American art film, I don't know if it's really label it that, but because Easy Rider went in Venice. It did go well in Europe first.
Such a comparison. What you're asking is something that I've been thinking about and doing my homework. I don't know the answer to it because they may resent it. They may resent an American doing it because I got a twang in my voice and this and that, and I'm not a classical actor. And people in Europe and in the Orient love to see Steve McQueen doing an action film. They may be very disappointed. And the second thing I like to ask you, what a strange comparison between that and Easy Rider. Because
it's an American who's an actor and it's kind of, at the time, it was an unusual film.
I'm very flattered, but I don't think we'll be as successful as that film because I think at the time that was he was capping something up then, and it's a very action film, and we don't have that.
There's some questions on the side I thought over there. Yes, in back, Myra.
I was wondering how you approach this as an actor, seeing as most of your other roles, there was that undercurrent physicality. I just wondered how you approach that.
I did my work as a professional, and this man was passive, and he was very nonviolent. He knows nothing of violence, and I worked at it. I tried very hard to do my craft, and I do believe a great deal that this picture is based on personal courage that has nothing to do with what courage represents in our society today and some of the things that I and John Wayne and Clint Eastwood have done. The personal courage of a man who is suddenly, I think, going to find himself right up front. Because the physical thing, I'm not sure it means anything anymore until we get into a flat-ass revolution. But what does mean something is that if the meek is going to inherit the earth, then he's got to find a way to be able to negotiate. And I think somehow it's got to be between having a very, very strong punch and then be kind, if that makes any sense.
How do you feel about your performance in Papillon with Dustin Hoffman?
I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed that film, and that was a very fine director. I'm sorry, my hearing is very bad, so...
What was the music and who did it? It was very impressive.
Well, it was an original. Leonard Rosenman did the music. And he's an old friend of mine from the streets, and we were both busted. And I played a lot of Vivaldi, Zuckerman's Four Seasons, and I love it. That's what I wanted to use for the film. In fact, I brought it in so the actors could listen to it, and I still listen to it, and I loved it. It was too cheerful. Leonard and I got in a little argument, and he wrote something else, and I just think what he wrote was wonderful.
Yeah, you had about a 2-year layoff between this and Towering Inferno.
3.
I was just wondering, did you sort of use this layoff as a time to sort of get back in touch with yourself? And,
Yeah.
Because you had made a lot of movies, like Papillon and that, right after another. And
Getting in touch with yourself. Yeah, I love living very, very much. And, it's terribly important for me to get out and hit the trail and see people and do things and get interpretive things that I need as a person. An actor an actor has a very strange situation going today, a movie star, and you got to be very, very careful with it. And you know, getting out there and maybe a beard or whatever, so I can get around pretty good. Although my wife made me cut it all off, was wonderful for me. It gave me a chance to get back to things that I cared very, very much for that was taken away from me. Because to have your identification and your obscurity is the ultimate. But if you have heat on you all the time, constantly, and people want me to live up to the things they see on the screen, I can't do that, I'll die. And so, you know, I have a right to be a human being. And because I think we don't have a king or queen in this country, they need people to idolize, and I understand that. But they also need somebody to twist the key. And if you go into a cowboy bar and it's drunk and it's Saturday night in Montana, somebody's liable to want to operate on your head. And that generally comes out of just this. And that's very, very bad. So if you can get back somehow with the people and find out what your pecking order is there, then I think that leaves you cool.
You say you were skeptical from the beginning to some degree about the viability of this project as a profit maker.
Whoa. Start again, I'm sorry, I didn't get all the way.
You said that you were a little bit doubtful regarding this film's potential as a profit maker.
Correct.
I wonder how you approach the money people with the project that you yourself are fully confident in. Do you have to kind of give them a snow job?
No. No, I was under contract. I had 3 pictures to do for First Artist. I have no salary up front and a percentage of the action. And I had $3 million to work with, and I had to put it on the screen. And the thing was, the reason I'm not getting paid is because I have control of what I want to do. Although once I popped the button, it was getting great bad reactions. It was bad. No, I don't think it'll make a lot of money, you know. I had my choice of doing what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to do.
Yes. Have you ever thought about giving up your acting and going into producing?
Yes. Yes, I'm thinking on it. I really am. I'd like to quit at the top, and I'd like to make contributions as a producer and maybe direct. And then if something came for a good old character part, I'd be all ready.
Yeah, you said earlier that you had done some production, even though you hadn't gotten screen credit for it.
Yeah.
But that this was the first thing you had done that you were really proud of for yourself. Should you not act anymore in the near future, but go more strongly into production, would you be working in films of this type or more of the entertainment films?
Okay, you asked me 4 questions, and I'll try and answer them. I started getting educated in production when I first did a film called The Blob. That's how I started. And from there, I went into television to do Wanted Dead or Alive for 3 years, which I enjoyed very much. It was a half-hour show, and took 3 days to shoot it, 2 days out, 1 day in, and I did 120-some shows. That gave me preparation for production. And I do love production, but I don't like the bullshit that goes with it. It really, the pecking order in anything we do in society today is spooky, because you constantly have to play the game, and there's no different in our business. Out of that, I ended up being lucky enough to get better parts, make better money, more sophisticated productions. And I learned my craft being exposed. Now, I never was interested in producing on screen. I have an ego. I mean, I'd love to see Steve McQueen produced by, but I thought it was bad for my audience because I think people would like just to see me act, and they're not interested in whether I'm involved in producing or not. And I wasn't secure enough about my own conceptions. And there was many things I did that I was proud of, I could have put my name on, but I wanted to get someone that knew more than I did, so I could get educated by him. So by paying his salary, I could learn from him, which I did. And this is not the only thing I'm proud of I thought I put my name on. I did it because now the movies have changed. It's not a game anymore, it's big bucks, heavy bucks. And those people play for keeps out there. And they have a way, you know, there's a lot of ways a man can be hurt, or a woman, in business. They can hurt your head, they can hurt you financially, but they can gut you. You know, they can cause that thing to pop up in your throat a couple of times a day. You start thinking about it a little bit. If I have my name on there, they can no longer palm me off as just a candy-ass movie star who they've got to be easy with, even though I've used it for refuge sometimes when things got heavy and hot. And then the last one, I don't remember what the other last part
What kind of movie that you get involved with now?
I don't know. I really honestly don't know. I'm sure tired of shooting them up. And I'm not saying, you know, I've been a whore in my life, and I don't think I'll be one again real soon, though. But I have been, and I'm not saying I wouldn't do a movie, you know, and so forth, that has to do with just escapism, but it would have to be good. I would love to do something that's meaningful, you know, really mean, and it's hard to find it. I mean, in my age caliber, and I'm not 26 anymore, so if the young thing comes along, it ain't going to be for me. I've got to go the other direction, and that leaves me to the, you know, the guy like this, and that's not too good for me. So I don't know. I'm starting to feel a little silly about it.
Stanford.
Yes, Steve, you seem to voice an obligation to your audiences in terms of themes that you might portray as a producer. That obligation, I guess, has obviously evolved or changed given your career. Where does it stand today? What types of obligations do you feel towards your audience?
My audience? I've always felt a very strong responsibility towards my audience. I've never gypped them in my life, and I never will. And I feel that very, very strongly. But my obligation's got to be to myself. In other words, I'm not late to work. I never cheat them. And I always felt the things that I did before when I was in the physical area, if I took a chance, I really took it, you know, and not for any other reason except that I think it looks foul if you don't. But you've got to believe in what you're doing, like you believe in what you do. I believe in what I do. And if I'm shooting my best shot for me, then I'm doing my best for the audience. If I try to figure out what they want and get devious and so forth, then I'm not doing good for them or me, if that's answering it in any way.
Yes, in the back.
You know, I've always liked the film The Reavers that you were in. I was wondering how you got into that project.
I was railroaded. I sang in that picture, too. Well, I think because the man who wrote it, Faulkner, you know, it was really a jar for me, and I loved what they had to say. You know, I love the black and white scene there, you know, and I love the feeling of our country then. You know, I could see it on film, and I love the whole feeling of it, and I love doing it. I really enjoyed that.
It's coming back on television the week of September 18th. I think it's around the 20th or the 21st, sometime like that. I was just writing about it today. So yes, wait a minute, somebody who hasn't asked before. Yes, back there. Are the glasses on, I think? Yeah.
In the town meeting, when Hofstad announced you, he was definitely a Judas figure, especially with the black beard. And you were a Christ figure with you didn't look like it. How do you feel about being a Christ figure?
I didn't look at it that way, but one thing about film that I think is so constructive, and that is, like reading, it allows you to make up your mind as you see it. And that's really what it is. You're right about him. He became the heavy, in a sense, but did he really? You know, and for me being the Christ figure, people have mentioned that before. That never occurred to me. I think people will make things out of film that aren't even there. And I think that's one of the wonderful things. I don't mean that as a slam, but I mean, this is what you see. And other people will see different things and the same thing. And other people have seen what you see. But it was not my intention. I'll tell you why I looked the way I looked, was because I fashioned my character after the first gentleman that I saw a photograph of that did the play on stage in New York, in Norway in 1902. And I copied his wardrobe and the way he looked, because Dr. Stockman was a bit mad. And the thing, you know, he wasn't right either. I mean, he was busy, you know, pushing buttons, and he handled everything wrong, although what he was trying to do was right. What I saw in the film was everyone turning against him one at a time. His friends, his best friends, his wife. And his daughter was the only one that really kind of looked at it with any clear picture of perhaps his survival. His children turned against him in the end. And that's what I think that the element of truth was all about there. It has to do with the common man. And the common truth about the common man we've lost in our society. Everything is so complex now that nobody even talks in the first dimension. We all talk in a third dimension. And if in places I do business, nobody comes up and just asks me what they want. It gets so flowery. And I feel that there's a very strong parallel between who founded this country, these guys who didn't compromise. When they shook your hand, they looked you in the eye, and they kept their word. And if they said they were going to do something, they came damn close to doing it. I think Ibsen was saying the same thing, even though I know he was hurt by when they knocked the hell out of his first play. Excuse me, man. And I think that's what, but the way he handled the press at the time. And I think we're into a lot of yellow journalism at this time. And what's going on? I watched Nixon on television, and one of the things that he did say is that the media has gotten so powerful, and movies are part of that interpretation. And I'm 47 years old, and believe me, I don't know my ass. But I do know this, that I see difference in our society over the years that I've spent wheeling and dealing and staying alive that it's changed. People aren't straight. Very rarely are they straight in business anymore. And you see the people who are starting to get straight are really starting to come out and shine. It's going to be up to you.
Yes, in the blue.
Yes, this film obviously created a challenge for you, Steve McQueen, the actor, to meet. I'm curious to know what kind of goals you were hoping to get out of the film.
I was only frightened of being very bad. That's the first thing. I just didn't want to be embarrassing. And I wanted to do it because what I just said before, but I just wanted something to be done that I felt was pure and that had to do with somebody who wrote something that I really, really believed in. And it was a classic, and I'm an actor. And that's a responsibility towards my craft to do one classic. And I've done that.
How are you going to relate that to the audience? To say, people are going to look in the paper, they're going to see Steve McQueen in An Enemy of the People. Mm-hmm. Most, I'm sure, people haven't heard of Ibsen, I have. And, people are going to go to the ideal that they're going to go see it, and then they see Steve McQueen kill a bunch of people or, come out the hero. And I can't help thinking, just from my opinion, that if I came to a movie with that attitude, I'd walk away kind of disgusted and disappointed that I didn't see Steve McQueen there. And how do you plan to, get to the people's ideal of what the movie they're going to see?
That's a very intelligent question, and this is exactly what I'm fighting with right now. And I don't know the answer because I don't know who my audience is. I honestly don't. I think there's a big danger where the audience is going in and getting angry. At first I thought, well, could we educate people in the United States about Ibsen? I wanted to use an Ibsen logo, Henrik Ibsen, and that didn't work. And the studios are as confused as I am, and they don't know what to do either. So we don't know what the answer is. I did a film called Bullet, and we had a car chase in it. And at the time, Warner Brothers, who fought me on that too, and they said, look, when they saw it, they flipped and said, well, we're going to do all kinds of publicity of cars jumping and so forth. And I said, well, look, try something. I believe the word of mouth is what will help sell a film. At that time, I was playing a cop, and cops were not popular then. And I said, well, look, why don't you leave the chase out of it? Do your publicity, set up your prints, let's okay them, and start the machine moving, but don't mention anything about the automobile chase, and let the audiences discover that. And luckily, it did, and it worked, and everything was fine. Now, we don't have an automobile chase in this play, unfortunately. But what we do have is dignity and truth. Now, it's slow, a lot of it's dull, but what I'm counting on, I think, is small houses, an intimate feeling, and if people go away and feel a little bit enriched. Also, you can take your children to this, and you know something? It ain't going to hurt them. And you can take elderly people who we have no responsibility for in film anymore. I mean, elderly people in almost every country in the world you learn from. And it's going to be very hard to sell because I don't...
Have you thought of personal TV appearances, say, John Carson or something like that? Just to get this image over of the new you or the...
You may not be wrong. I've changed a lot. I am a different person. No, I'm not doing any more interviews. I stopped doing that because I just can't see some... Chuck is my friend, and this doesn't apply to him, and I mean this because I'm not saying anything. I would never say something I didn't mean, but he's straight and he's honest and he's good. But what I'm talking about is, sure, I could gain a lot of publicity, but I can't have, somebody try to cap me up. My record's out there where you can see it, and I'm not going to sit and explain myself to anybody. And I'm pretty goddamn bored of getting up and talking about myself and seeing myself in print, so I don't want to do that anymore. Well done.
Thank you, Steve McQueen.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you very much.